Morning. In the last class, we already seen about the spectral methods, and there we already completed regarding UV spectroscopy, visible spectroscopy, and IR spectroscopy. And also, we got an idea regarding the various spectral techniques. And today, we can complete this section on the spectral techniques. Okay. So today we'll be studying about mass spectroscopy, then NMR spectroscopy, then fluorimetry, XRD, etc. Likewise, these things are there. So these various spectral techniques were used in the analysis of different phytoconstituents. Clear? So today we can see about the next spectral method, that is mass spectroscopy. So here this mass spectroscopy, it is also known as positive ion spectra or line spectra. So mass spectroscopy is also known as positive ion spectra. It is again known as line spectra. So it is positive ion spectra or the line spectra. Clear? And this is used for finding out the molecular weight of a particular phytoconstituent. So mass spectroscopy is also known as positive ion spectra or line spectra, and this one is used in finding out the molecular weight of a phytoconstituent. Clear? So that is basically about mass spectroscopy. So mass spectroscopy is also known as positive ion spectra or line spectra, and it is used for finding out the molecular weight of a particular phytoconstituent. Clear? And here it requires only very minute amount of sample. So regarding the sample pattern of mass spectroscopy, here it requires only very less amount of sample. And since it requires only very less amount of sample, and this technique is widely employed in phytoconstituent, because for getting a phytoconstituent, so the quantity of phytoconstituent that we are taking is very concerned. Okay, it is having high concern. So very less sample only required in mass spectroscopy. Clear? Now regarding the next point, this mass spectroscopy will be giving an accurate molecular weight of the sample. So molecular weight of the sample can be determined with the help of mass spectroscopy, and also it gives a typical fragmentation pattern of the molecule. Clear? So means here we are studying about means various spectral techniques only, and these spectral techniques were studied mainly for the purpose of finding out the structure of a particular compound. Clear? So for knowing the structure of a compound, different techniques are there. So there also we require to know the molecular weight of the sample. So with the help of this mass spectroscopy, it will be giving an accurate molecular weight of a sample with a typical fragmentation pattern also. That is, the molecule will be getting fragmented into different pieces, and you will be getting a typical fragmentation pattern of that particular molecule. Clear? So this is the thing that we are getting through mass spectroscopy. So it gives an accurate molecular weight of the sample with a typical fragmentation pattern. Clear? No. Now, this fragmentation pattern can be considered to be the characteristic feature of that particular compound. Clear? So we already told that, means I already told that it will be giving an accurate molecular weight of a sample with a typical fragmentation pattern, and this fragmentation pattern is often considered to be the characteristic feature of that particular compound. Clear? So this is the basics regarding mass spectroscopy. So mass spectroscopy is also known as positive ion spectra or line spectra. Clear? Then it is used for finding out the molecular weight of the phytoconstituent. It is used for finding out the molecular weight of phytoconstituent. And here the major advantage of mass spectroscopy is it requires only very minute or trace amount of sample. വളരെ കുറച്ച് sample മതി. So it requires only very minute or trace amount of sample. Then it will be giving an accurate molecular weight along with a typical fragmentation pattern of the molecule under study. Clear? So it will be giving an accurate molecular weight along with a typical fragmentation pattern of the molecule under study, and this fragmentation pattern can be considered to be the characteristic feature of that particular compound. Clear? Now we can see about the working principle of mass spectroscopy. So here first we have to convert the sample in the vapor form. So you already knowing that most of the sample may be either in the solid or in the liquid form. But here we have to convert the sample in the vapor form, and in the next step it should be diffused to the low pressure region of the mass spectrophotometer. So before that you have to understand that the instrument used in mass spectroscopy is known as mass spectrophotometer. Clear? So here first you have to convert the sample in the vapor form, and this vapor form sample should be diffused to the low pressure region of the mass spectrophotometer. Clear? In the next step, so there means in the low pressure system of the mass spectrophotometer, it undergoes ionization with sufficient energy. So there it undergo ionization with sufficient energy. So here മൂന്ന് principle മനസ്സിലായിട്ടുണ്ടാവല്ലോ. First we have to convert the sample in the vapor form. Then it should be diffused to the low pressure system of the mass spectrophotometer. There it undergo ionization with sufficient energy. Clear? Now, in the next step, so after ionization of this molecule, there the fragmentation happened. More clearly, fragmentation of the chemical bonds will be taking place there. Clear? So sample should be converted in the vapor form and it should be diffused to the low pressure system of the MOF spectrophotometer. There it undergo ionization with sufficient energy, and because of this ionization, fragmentation of chemical bonds will be happening. Clear? Now in the next step, so after fragmentation of this chemical bond, positive charged ions are released. So here positive charged ions are produced or formed. Clear? In the next step, so this positive charged ion should be accelerated to the magnetic field in the instrument. So the instrument will be having a magnetic field. So after fragmentation, the positive charged ions are positive charged ions are formed, and this positive charged ion should be accelerated to the magnetic field. Clear? Now in the next step, so there mass by charge ratio is dispersed. So when we are accelerating this positive charged ions to the magnetic field of the instrument, then it will be dispersed into mass by charge ratio. Clear? And this is a mass spectra. So this one is the mass spectra, and this is a working principle of mass spectrophotometry. And here mass spectrum is in the form of lines like this. So suppose it's a graph. Here you can see on small line, then on big or thick line is there, then after that on small line, then again on big line, then some few small lines are there, then small thick lines are there, then again a long line is there. So this is a mass spectral graph. Okay, a mass spectra. This one is a mass spectrum. Clear? So this is about the working principle of mass spectrophotometry. So sample should be converted first in the vapor form. Then it should be diffused to the low pressure system of the mass spectrophotometer. There it undergo ionization with sufficient energy, and there fragmentation of chemical bonds will be taking place. Now this chemical bonds should be converted to so this fragment should be converted to positive charged ions, and they should be accelerated to the magnetic field of the instrument. There it disperses into mass by charge ratio, and that is known as the then you will be getting the mass spectra in the form of a line diagram. So line by line അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഒരു diagram ആയിട്ടാണ് mass spectrum കിട്ടുന്നത്. So this is about the working principle of mass spectrophotometry. Clear? So nowadays electron impact mass spectrophotometry is there, that is EIMS or electron impact mass spectrophotometer, and this is a powerful technique, and it is usually used in conjugation with GLC or gas liquid chromatography. So this is an advanced instrument, and this instrument is based on the positive ionization of molecules. Okay, so this instrument is based on the positive ionization of molecules, and it is due to the bombardment with a beam of electrons. So there on electron beam is means used for bombardment, and based on that only positive ionization of molecules will be happening, and this is used as a basic principle in mass spectrophotometry. Clear? So electron impact mass spectrophotometry or spectroscopy or EIMS, and it is an extremely powerful technique, and this is usually used in conjugation with GLC. Clear? So then it is based on the positive ionization of molecules, and that is due to the bombardment with a beam of electrons. So this is about mass spectrophotometry. And now we can see about the next part of mass spectrophotometry, that is applications regarding mass spectrophotometry. So the first application is, it is mainly used in the structural elucidation of phytoconstituents along with other spectral techniques. So അത് ഞാൻ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ആദ്യമേ തന്നെ പറഞ്ഞതാണ്, എന്ത് എഴുതുമ്പോഴേക്കും സ്ട്രക്ചറൽ എലുസിഡേഷൻ എഴുതാൻ നേരത്ത് along with other techniques എന്നുള്ള വാക്കും കൂടെ അവിടെ ഇൻക്ലൂഡ് ചെയ്യണം. Clear? So it is used in the structural elucidation of phytoconstituents along with other spectral techniques. Clear? Now the second application is, it is used for determining the purity of natural products. So whether a natural product is pure or impure, that you can estimate it with the help of mass spectrophotometry. Clear? So this is the second application. So the first application is, it is used in the structural elucidation of phytoconstituents, and the second application is, it is used for determining the purity of natural products. So these are the various applications of mass spectrophotometry. So now we can say about the next spectral technique, that is NMR spectroscopy. NMR. NMR spectroscopy. So this NMR spectroscopy is a nucleomagnetic resonance spectroscopy. So it is a nucleomagnetic resonance spectroscopy. Okay. So ഇതിന്റെ ഒരു ക്രൂഡ് മീൻസ് ഒരു വെർഷൻ ആണ് നമ്മുടെ ഇപ്പോഴുള്ള എന്താ സ്കാൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന സാധനം ഉണ്ടല്ലോ, മീൻസ് സ്കാൻ ടെക്നിക്സ് ഉണ്ടല്ലോ, അത് ഇതിന്റെ ഒരു NMR സ്പെക്ട്രോസ്കോപ്പിയുടെ വേറെ വെർഷൻ ആണ്. ഓക്കെ. MRI സ്കാനിങ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന സംഭവം ഇതിന്റെ ഒരു മോഡിഫൈഡ് വേർഷൻ ആണ്. സോ NMR spectroscopy is a nucleomagnetic resonance spectroscopy. Clear? Then this is a study of spin changes at the nuclear level when a radio frequency energy is applied in presence of a magnetic field. So you already knowing about the molecular atoms and their electrons are there. They will be undergoing some spin motions, etc. So that you already studied in your lower classes. So NMR spectroscopy is based on the study of spin changes at the nuclear level. Nuclear level ulla spin changes are study in the. So enganeyana when two things are there, one is the radio frequency energy, and this radio frequency energy should be applied in presence of a magnetic field. Clear? So NMR spectroscopy is the nucleomagnetic resonance spectroscopy. Then it is concerned with the study of spin changes at the nuclear level when a radio frequency energy is applied in presence of a magnetic field. Clear? So the magnetic moment of hydrogen atoms present in various phytoconstituents are estimated with the help of NMR spectroscopy. So the main purpose of NMR or nucleomagnetic resonance spectroscopy is to find out the magnetic moment of hydrogen atoms present in various phytoconstituents. Clear? So that is a major purpose of doing this NMR spectroscopy. Okay. So NMR spectroscopy is the nucleomagnetic resonance spectroscopy. Then it is the study of spin changes at the nuclear level when a radio frequency energy is applied in presence of a magnetic field. Clear? Now, the magnetic moment of hydrogen atoms present in various phytoconstituents can be estimated with the help of NMR spectroscopy. Clear? Now, the hydrogen atoms present in atoms are usually attached to different groups. Clear? So, hydrogen atoms present in a molecule are usually attached to different groups, and the common groups in which hydrogen can be seen as CH2, then CHO, then NH2, CHOH, etc. So these are the different environments in which we can see hydrogen atom inside a molecule. Clear? Okay. So NMR spectroscopy is a nucleomagnetic resonance spectroscopy, and this is concerned with the study of spin changes at the nuclear level when a radio frequency energy is applied in presence of a magnetic field. Clear? Now the magnetic moment of hydrogen atoms present in various phytoconstituents can be estimated with the help of NMR spectroscopy, and here usually hydrogen atoms are attached to different groups like CH2, CHO, then NH2, CHOH, etc. Different types are there, and these are the different environments in which we can see a hydrogen atom in a molecule. Clear? Okay. The NMR spectroscopy will be giving different informations regarding the number of hydrogen atom present in these different situations. So here we are studying about the unknown structure only. So there we have to understand about the hydrogen atoms. So with the help of this NMR spectroscopy, it will be giving an idea regarding the number of hydrogen atom and also about the different environment in which these hydrogen atoms are present. Clear? Now the next point is with the help of carbon-13 NMR. Now it is also using. So with the help of carbon-13 NMR, we can get the details regarding the carbon atoms also. So basically NMR spectroscopy is used for finding out the nature, type, number, etc. hydrogen atom. But nowadays carbon-13 NMR is also there, and with the help of this carbon-13 NMR, nowadays it is possible to find out the number, type, nature, environment, etc. regarding carbon atom also. Clear? So it is a nucleomagnetic resonance spectroscopy, and it is the study of spin changes at the nuclear level when a radio frequency energy is applied in presence of a magnetic field. Clear? So this technique is used for finding out the nature of hydrogen atoms present in different phytoconstituents, and you already knowing that means this hydrogen atom can be attached to different groups like CH2, CHO, NH2, CHOH, etc. Clear? And NMR spectroscopy will be giving information regarding the number of hydrogen atom present in these different situations, and with the help of carbon-13 NMR, we will also get the details regarding the carbon atom. Clear? Now, means it requires at least the major drawback of NMR only I am telling. So it requires at least 5 to 10 milligram of the sample. So this 5 to 10 milligram means it is very high in the case of herbal or phytoconstituents. So because after extracting a plant, we will be getting only very less amount of sample. And in that, if you're taking this 5 or 10 milligram, that means it's a very heavy sample. Okay, so huge or means a very big amount of sample is required for NMR spectroscopy. Mass in the trace amount, but here it requires very big amount of sample. But അതിനൊരു advantage കൂടെ ഉണ്ട് അത് ലാസ്റ്റ് ഞാൻ പറയാം. So here it requires only 5 means at least 5 to 10 milligram of sample, and this is quite heavy in the case of phytoconstituent. Clear? Then ഇനി അടുത്ത നമ്മൾ working principle പറയാം. So here the sample should be placed as solution. So in mass spectroscopy I already told that it should be placed in the vapor form, but here the sample should be placed as solution with an inert solvent. So എങ്ങനെയാണ് solution ആക്കാനുള്ള? It should be means made in a solution form with the help of an inert solvent, and that should be placed between the poles of a powerful magnet. ഒരു horseshoe magnet കണക്കത്ത ഒരു powerful magnet ന്റെ poles ന്റെ ഇടയിലാണ് ഈ സാധനം വെക്കാനുള്ളത്. So here so here the sample should be placed as solution with an inert solvent between the poles of a powerful magnet. Okay, and after placing this, here the protons will be undergoing, protons എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ hydrogens തന്നെയാണ്. So the protons will be undergoing different chemical shift according to their molecular environment. So based on the molecular environment of that thing, here the hydrogen atoms will be undergoing different chemical shifts. Clear? So here means the sample should be converted into solution, and that can be done with the help of an inert solvent. Then it should be placed between the poles of a powerful magnet. Then this hydrogen atom will be undergoing different chemical shift and according to their molecular environment. Clear? And this is to be measured with the reference standard. So each shift in we have to measure with the help of a standard, and usually this one, that is trimethylsilane or TMS, it is used as a standard in NMR spectroscopy. Clear? So it requires 5 to 10 milligram of sample, and this is quite heavy or big in the case of phytoconstituents. And here the sample should be placed as solution with an inert solvent between the poles of a powerful magnet, and the protons will be undergoing different chemical shifts according to their molecular environment. Okay, and this shift should be measured with the help of a reference standard, and usually TMS or trimethylsilane is used as a reference standard. Here. And here, by measuring the chemical shifts, the proton characters can be studied. That is, the characters of hydrogen can be studied with the help of measuring the chemical shift of that particular atom or molecule. Clear? Okay. So now, next thing is, so here the sample should be placed as solution. This I already പറഞ്ഞത് തന്നെയാണ്. So ഒന്നുകൂടെ പറയുന്നതേ ഉള്ളൂ. Solvent ആയിട്ടാണ് place. Okay. Now, next thing is we can see about the applications of NMR spectroscopy. So this is used as a fingerprinting device for comparing phytoconstituents with the standard. So this one is a major application of NMR spectroscopy. എന്താണ്? It is used as a fingerprinting device for comparing the phytoconstituents with the standard. Fingerprinting എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഒരെണ്ണത്തിന് വേറൊന്നുമായിട്ട് കമ്പയർ ചെയ്യുന്നു അത്രേ ഉള്ളൂ. ഇവിടെ മീൻസ് അതിന്റെ ഒരു ഫുൾ ഡീറ്റെയിൽസ് കിട്ടുന്നു. നമ്മുടെ കൈരേഖ പോലെ തന്നെയാണ്. So അതിന് ഒരു full details കിട്ടും. So it can be used for comparing the phytoconstituents with the standards. So it can be used as a fingerprinting device for comparing the phytoconstituents with the reference standards. Clear? Then second application is, this can also be used in the structural elucidation of phytoconstituents on combination with other spectral techniques. അത് ഞാൻ എപ്പോഴും പറയുന്ന കാര്യമാണ്. So എല്ലാ spectral techniquesനും ഈ ഒരു application add ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും. That is, it is used in the structural elucidation of phytoconstituents on combination with other techniques, other spectral techniques. So these are the common applications of NMR spectroscopy. So അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ രണ്ട് application ആണ് ഇവിടെ പറഞ്ഞത്. So first one is, so it is used as a fingerprinting device for comparing the phytoconstituents with the standards, and second thing is, it is used in the structural elucidation of phytoconstituents on combination with other spectral techniques. Clear? Then the third application is, it is also used for determining the class of compound. ഏത് ക്ലാസ് ആണെന്നുള്ള കാര്യം റഫ് ആയിട്ട് അറിയാൻ വേണ്ടി ഇത് യൂസ് ചെയ്യാറുണ്ട്. So it is used for determining the class of compound. For example, differentiating aromatic as well as aliphatic protons and carbons. അങ്ങനെ ഇതിനെ ക്ലാസിഫൈ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും. So it is used for determination of class of compounds that is differentiating aromatic as well as aliphatic protons and carbons can be done with the help of NMR spectroscopy. So appo moon applications are, one is fingerprinting device, and that is used for comparing the phytoconstituents with the standard. Second thing is used the structural elucidation of phytoconstituents on combination with other spectral techniques. Clear? Now the third thing is it is used in the determination of class of compounds, that is differentiating aliphatic as well as aromatic protons. Clear? Then the last point is, so this is not an application but this is a major advantage of NMR. So അതിനൊരു disadvantage ഉണ്ട്, നമ്മൾ ആദ്യമേ പറഞ്ഞു, it requires very high amount of sample, that is minimum 5 to 10 milligrams of sample should be required in the case of analysis with NMR spectroscopy. But the major advantage of NMR is that here the sample can be recovered unchanged even after the operation, and it can be used for further other determinations also. Clear? So this is a major advantage of NMR spectroscopy. So the main advantage of NMR spectroscopy is the sample can be recovered unchanged after the operation and can be used for other determinations. So these are the various applications of NMR spectroscopy, and that is about NMR spectroscopy. Clear? So now we can see about the next technique, that is X-ray crystallography or X-ray diffraction crystallography. So this is an expensive technique and it is mainly used in the identification of new plant constituent. So it is a crystallographic technique, and that is, it is an expensive technique, and this is mainly used in the identification of new plant constituents. Okay, so this technique can be applied only when the substance is available in sufficient amount and in the crystalline form. So two conditions are required for this XRD analysis. So first thing is the sample should be available in the sufficient amount, and the second thing is it should be in the crystalline form. So these are the two conditions that is should be satisfied on analysis with XRD. So one, the sample should be in the crystalline form. Second thing is it should be available in sufficient quantity. Clear? So it's an expensive, just so it's an expensive technique and it is used mainly in the identification of new plant constituents, and this technique can be applied only when the substance is available in sufficient amount and in the crystalline form. Clear? Okay. Now we can see about the various applications of XRD. So the major application is it is used in the structural elucidation of phytoconstituent. ഇവിടെ നിങ്ങൾ other techniques വേണമെന്നുള്ള കാര്യം എഴുതണ്ട. So with the help of this itself, since it is in the crystalline form, so it can be used in the structural determination of phytoconstituent. Second thing is it is used for studying about the stereochemistry of phytoconstituents. So for these two things we can use this XRD or X-ray diffraction crystallography. Clear? So it's an expensive technique and that is mainly used for the identification of new plant constituents. And this technique can be applied only when the substance is available in sufficient amount and in the crystalline form. That is, two conditions are there for XRD analysis. So the first thing is the sample should be in the crystalline form. Okay. And second condition is it should be available in sufficient amount. Okay. അത്യാവശ്യ sample ഉണ്ടെങ്കിലേ ഇത് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുള്ളൂ. Now about the various applications of X-ray diffraction crystallography. So the first application is it is used in the structural determination of phytoconstituent. So in all the other spectral techniques we already mentioned that this can be used in the structural elucidation of phytoconstituent on combination with other spectral techniques. But in the case of XRD or X-ray diffraction crystallography, here you have to write like this only. So that is, it is used in the structural determination of phytoconstituent, that is sufficient. So no other technique combination is required here. Now the second application is it is used in the studying of stereochemistry about various phytoconstituents. So that is, it is used for studying the stereochemistry of various phytoconstituents. So that is about X-ray crystallography. Clear? So അപ്പം ഇതുവരെ നമ്മൾ പഠിച്ച ഫസ്റ്റ് മാസ് സ്പെക്ട്രോസ്കോപ്പി ആയിരുന്നു. അത് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് NMR സ്പെക്ട്രോസ്കോപ്പി, ഇത് കഴിഞ്ഞതിന് ശേഷം ഇപ്പോൾ അടുത്ത XRD or X-ray diffraction crystallography. Clear? Now for the next technique, that is fluorimetry. So the principle of fluorimetry. So next spectral method is fluorimetry or spectrofluorimetry. എങ്ങനെ വേണമെങ്കിലും പറയാം. So here the instrument used in fluorimetry is spectrofluorimeter. Clear? So the principle of fluorimetry is it is a study of measurement of emitted radiations. So every atoms, most of the atoms or atoms or molecules will be emitting some amount of radiation. So it is a means the principle of fluorimetry is the study of measurement of the emitted radiations when electrons undergo transition from singlet excited state to singlet ground state. Okay, so you already knowing that. So electrons, they will be in the ground state, then it will be in excited state. After some time, it will be returning back to the ground state. ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളെല്ലാം നിങ്ങൾ പഠിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ടാകും. So അതിലൊരു സാധനമാണ് ഫ്ലൂറിമെട്രിയുടെ പ്രിൻസിപ്പിൾ ആയിട്ട് അപ്ലൈ ചെയ്യുന്നത്. Clear? So the principle of fluorimetry is the study of measurement of emitted radiation when electrons undergo transition from singlet excited state to singlet ground state. Clear? Normal condition ground state ആയിരിക്കും, then excited state പോകും. So then after sometimes it will be coming back to the ground state also. So ഇവിടെ excited in the ground state വരുമ്പോഴേക്കും it will be emitting some radiation, and this radiation is used for the studying of fluorimetry, and this is the basic principle involved in fluorimetry. Clear? So this means that is excitation, means electron undergo transition from ground state to excited state, then excited state to ground state, etc. So this thing can be achieved by either with the means using UV radiation or visible radiation. So that is the excitement of these electrons can be done with the help of either ultraviolet radiations or visible radiation. That is, it can be achieved by the help of either UV radiations or visible radiations. Yeah. Now we can see about the working principle of spectrofluorimeter. So first thing required is UV or visible radiation. So that is required because I means in the previous slide also previous slide also we already told that. So this one is required, means UV light അല്ലെങ്കിൽ visible light കൊടുക്കുമ്പോഴാണ് ഈ ഇലക്ട്രോൺസിന്റെ excitation മറ്റു കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ അറിയാൻ പറ്റുന്നത്. So here UV or visible radiation is required, and that should be passed through a substance. So UV or visible radiation, so first thing required is UV or visible radiation, and it should be passed through a substance. This time that will be absorbing the radiation. So the substance will be absorbing the light, and ഇതാണ് ആദ്യമായിട്ട് പറയാനുള്ള. So UV or visible radiation should be passed through a substance, then absorption will be taking place. So this time the electrons, means which are in the ground state, will be converted to the excited state. Normally, means in normal condition, in every molecule the electrons will be in the ground state. So here when we are passing UV radiation through that substance, here the light will be absorbed, and that time the electrons will be converting or means undergoing a transition from the ground state to the excited state. Okay, so electrons will be undergoing transition from the ground state to the excited state. Clear? Then after some times it will be returning back to the ground state from the excited state. Okay, so electron will be coming back from the excited state to the ground state. So this time it will be emitting a radiation. So either first the electrons means in the ground state will be converted to or transited to excited state, and after sometimes it will be returning back to the ground state from the excited state, and during this return process it will be emitting a radiation, and this radiation is known as the fluorescence, and this is known as the fluorescence. Clear? So it is a fluorescence. So this is the basic principle of fluorimetry. Clear? So when UV or visible radiation is passed through a substance, so it will be undergoing absorption of this light, and that time the electrons present there will be undergoing a transition from the ground state to the excited state, and after sometimes it will be returning back to the ground state from the excited state, and during this return process it will be emitting a sort of radiation, and this radiation is known as the fluorescence. Clear? So this is a working principle of fluorimetry. So here the instrument used in fluorimetry is known as spectrofluorimeter. So the UV or visible radiation should be passed through a substance, and that time it undergo absorption of this light. So then the electrons present in that molecule will be undergoing transition from the ground state to the excited state. Normally the electrons will be in the ground state. So here it will be converting to the ground state, and after sometimes it will be returning back to ground state from the excited state. So that time it will be emitting a radiation, and this is known as the fluorescence. Clear? So this is a working principle of spectrofluorimeter or fluorescence. Okay, now next thing is about the application. So it is used in the estimation of constituent in a crude drug quantitatively or qualitatively. So this is a major application of spectrofluorimeter or means fluorimetry. So it is used in the estimation of constituents in crude drug quantitatively or qualitatively. So that is about the various spectral techniques. ഇത്രയേ ഉള്ളൂ സ്പെക്ട്രൽ ടെക്നിക്സ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. സോ ഇത് മാക്സിമം ഒരു 5 മാർക്കിന്റെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ആയിട്ടായിരിക്കും നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ചോദിക്കുന്നത്. ദാറ്റ്സ് ഓൾ. താങ്ക് യു. കഴിഞ്ഞു. ഇത്രയേ ഉള്ളൂ.